Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all the honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors and respect to the elders and to the apostle of the great millstone. Peace and blessing to all Akim that are preaching and teaching this word with 100% truth and sincerity. And unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning, and unto the Ba'ath Adawadah, the elect house of David that is scattered abroad, I give you my utmost and sincere salutations. So this is part of the Captivity series, and I apologize for this one being so late. I had to just do a little bit of study and some research, and this is the captivity. This is about the Greek captivity, going into the book of going into the book of Maccabees, the book of First Maccabees, specifically. Just going to go ahead and read about the wars of Alexander. Okay, and it says right here, if you can see it, let me just click it one more time. There we go. Okay, so it says the wars of Alexander the Great were a series of conquests carried out by Alexander III of Macedon from 336 to 323 BC. They began with the battles against the Achaemenid Empire, which is the Medo-Persian Empire, then under the rule of Darius III, who was the last. Darius III was the last king of the Persians and the Medes. All right. After Alexander's chain of victories, he began a campaign against local chieftains and warlords that stretched from Greece to as far as the region of Punjab in South Asia. By the time he died, Alexander ruled over most regions of Greece and the conquered Achaemenid Empire, including much of Achaemenid Egypt. Okay. He did not, however, manage to conquer the Indian subcontinent in its entirety according to his initial plan. Okay. Now, despite military accomplishments, Alexander did not provide any stable alternative to the rule of the Achaemenids. And his untimely death through the vast territories he conquered into a series of civil wars, commonly known as the Wars of the Diadochi. And the Diadochi are the four, excuse me, I've got a little bit of acid reflux, excuse me. The Diadochi are the four generals of Alexander. And here they are, right here, the Diadochi. Okay, so it says the Diadochi were rival generals, families, and friends of Alexander the Great who fought for the control over his empire after his death in 323 BC. The Wars of the Diadochi marked the beginning of the Hellenistic period in the Mediterranean Sea to the Indus River Valley, and we're going to read that a little bit here. But we're going to read a little bit of the Hellenistic period here after we're done reading some of this. And it says, the most notable Diadochi include Ptolemy, Antigonus, Cassander, and Seleucus. Now, Ptolemy was a Macedonian Greek general, historian, and successor of Alexander the Great, who went on to found the Ptolemaic kingdom centered on Egypt. Ptolemy was Basileus and pharaoh of Ptolemaic Egypt from 305 to 304 BC. Antigonus was a Macedonian Greek general and a successor of Alexander the Great and a prominent military leader in Alexander's army. He went on to control large parts of Alexander's former empire, and he let's go ahead and take a look at what he did. Okay, hold on a second. I know there's a thing down here somewhere. So here's a map of the areas right here. I know it's kind of hard to see that that the Diadochi had taken over. Okay, so the blue is Ptolemy, the green is Cassander, the orange is Lysimachus, and the yellow is Seleucus or Nicator. But like I said, it's Ptolemy, Cassander, Antigonus, and Seleucus. Okay, so as we're going to go in here, we're going to go to look at Antigonus real quick, and he says here, let's see, he was the founder of the Antigonus dynasty, who ruled over Macedonia until its conquest by the Roman Republic. And he served, and it says Antigonus likely served under Philip II of Macedon. He took part in Alexander's invasion of Achaemenid Persia and was named satrap in Phrygia. And he also received Pamphylia and Lycia in accordance with the partition of Babylon. Okay? Now, let's see. Let's go back. And then we have Cassander. Slakia. Let's see, Cassander was king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedonia from 305 BC until 297 BC, and de facto ruler of southern Greece from 317 BC until his death. And he's also a son of Antipater, and a contemporary of Alexander the Great. He was one of the Diadochi, who warred over Alexander's empire following the latter's death in 323 BC. Cassander later seized power by having Alexander's son and heir Alexander IV murdered. While governing Macedonia from 317 BC to 297 BC, Cassander focused on strengthening the northern borders of economic development while founding or restoring several cities including Thessalonica, Cassandria, and Thebes. However, his ruthlessness in dealing with political enemies complicates assessments of his rule. Okay. Now going to Seleucus. It says Seleucus the first Nicator was a Macedonian Greek general officer and successor of Alexander the Great, who went on and founded the eponymous Seleucid Empire led by Seleucid dynasty, initially a secondary player in the power struggles. Let's just go into it here. Was a Macedonian Greek general officer and successor of Alexander the Great. And of course, like I said, he founded the eponymous Seleucid Empire led by the Seleucid dynasty, initially a secondary player in the power struggle following Alexander's death. He rose to become the total ruler of Asia Minor, Syria, Mesopotamia, and the Iranian plateau, assuming the title of Basileus, which is Greek for, it's a Greek term meaning king. The Seleucid Empire was one of the major powers of the Hellenistic world until it was overcome by the Roman Republic and Parthian Empire in the late 2nd and early 1st century BC. Okay, so we got to look at, so like I said, in the blue was mostly Ptolemy the First Soter. And the green was Cassander, and the orange was Lysimachus, and the empire of Seleucus was all over here in the yellow. So I'm gonna go back. Okay, so going back to the wars of Alexander. Alexander assumed kingship over ancient Macedonia following the assassination of his father, Philip II. And surprisingly, the one who assassinated Philip II was his own son, Alexander. During his 2 decades on the throne, Philip II had unified the polis, which is the Greek city-states of mainland Greece, with Macedonian hegemony under the League of Corinth. Alexander proceeded to solidify Macedonian rule by quashing a rebellion in the southern Greek city-states and staged a short but bloody excursion against the city-states in the north. He then proceeded east to carry out his plan to conquer Achaemenid Empire. His campaign of conquest from Greece spanned across Anatolia, Syria, Phoenicia, Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greater Iran, Afghanistan, and India. He extended the boundaries of his Macedonian empire as far as the city of Taxila in modern-day Pakistan. And when you look up the League of Corinth here, also referred to as the Hellenic League, was a federation of Greek states created by Philip II, Alexander's father. In 338 to 337 BC, the League was created in order to unify Greek military forces under Macedonian leadership. And in truth, Philip II, he did have plans to go against the Persian Empire, but due to his assassination by his own son, that's when Alexander took the mantle and he forwarded it. Okay. All right. So prior to his death, Alexander had also made plans for Macedonian military and mercantile expansion into the Arabian Peninsula, after which he planned to turn his armies to Carthage, Rome, and the Iberian Peninsula in the west. However, the Diadochi, his political rivals, abandoned these plans after he died. Instead, within a few years of Alexander's death, the Diadochi began a series of military campaigns against each other and divided the territories and the Macedonian Empire among themselves, triggering 40 years of warfare during the Hellenic period. And remember, at this time, Philip the Macedonian, Alexander, his generals, and those that followed him, these were Edomites, okay? That's why I'm going to go ahead and get into the scripts here. This is going to be the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. And it says, "And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, which is Cyprus, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece." And remember, this is talking about Darius III, who was the final ruling king of the Medo-Persian Empire, of the Achaemenid Empire. Verse 2, "And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth." Okay? So this was talking about Alexander's conquest. Okay, he conquered many lands, gained power, gained strongholds, okay, subdued many people. Verse 3, "And went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up." Okay. Verse 4, "And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him." Verse 5, "And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth." Talking about the Diadochi, the four generals, which is Ptolemy, Cassander, Antigonus, and Seleucus. "And parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive." So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. "And his servants, the Diadochi, bare rule every one in his place." Okay, so they divided the Greek Macedonian Empire, the Macedonian Greek Empire, into 4 parts. That's why it says rule every one in his place. In verse 9, "And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth." Okay. So the 4 generals, they caused a lot of ruckus. Caused a lot of trouble in the lands. Civil wars. Dividing of the of the the Greek Macedonian Empire, right? That's why the scriptures say, if Satan be divided against himself, how can he stand, right? Roughly paraphrasing. So, the Edomites were not only at war with other nations, but they were also at war with themselves. If Satan can't be good to himself, how can he be good to anybody else? You have to understand that, man. If you can't be good to your own, if you can't be good to your own people, how do you expect this devil to treat anybody else any differently? Seriously. In verse 10 it says, "And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, the son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks." In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow." Okay? So we're going to go into the bit of the Hellenistic period. And it said there we go. And it says, in classical antiquity, the Hellenistic period covers the time in Greek history after classical Greece between the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC and the death of Cleopatra VII. And it says that Cleopatra VII, Philopator, was queen of the Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt from 51 to 30 BC, and the last active Hellenistic pharaoh, a member of the Ptolemaic dynasty. She was a descendant of its founder, Ptolemy I Soter, a Macedonian Greek general and companion of let's see, where is it at? And a companion of Alexander the Great. So she was a descendant of Ptolemy I Soter, who was one of a Macedonian Greek general and a companion of Alexander the Great. So her first language was Koine Greek. She was the only Ptolemaic ruler known to have learned the Egyptian language, among several others. So Cleopatra was an Edomite. She wasn't Egyptian. She just had the rule over the Egyptian over the kingdom of Egypt due to Ptolemy. And she was the daughter, the daughter of Ptolemy the 12th, Neos Dionysus, was a king of the Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt, who ruled from 80 to 58 BC, and then again from 55 BC until his death in 51 BC. So, all right. She was a descendant of Ptolemy Soter, and this was her dad, Ptolemy the 12th. Excuse me. Sorry, acid reflux getting me here. So going back to, let's see, where was I? Oh yeah. So Cleopatra VII in 30 BC, which was followed by the ascendancy of the Roman Empire, because after her death, the Roman Empire took over the Egyptian province. I believe that's what it said. Yeah, it took over, yeah. After her death, Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire, yep. That was marking the end of the Hellenistic period in the Mediterranean, begun during the reign of Alexander. Excuse me. So Cleopatra VII 30 BC, which was followed by the ascendancy of the Roman Empire as signified by the Battle of Actium in 31 BC and the Roman conquest of the Ptolemaic Egypt. In the following year which eliminated the last major Hellenistic kingdom. Its name stems from the ancient Greek word Hellas, which was gradually recognized as the name for Greece, from which the early modern 19th century historiographical term Hellenistic was derived from the term Hellenistic to be distinguished from Hellenic. Okay, let's see. Okay, here we go. After the Macedonian conquest of the Achaemenid Empire in 330 BC and its disintegration shortly thereafter, the partition of Babylon and subsequent wars with Theodosius, the Hellenistic kingdoms were established throughout West Asia, which is the Seleucid Empire, Kingdom of Pergamon, Northeast Africa, the Ptolemaic Kingdom, in South Asia, the Greco-Bactrian Kingdom, Indo-Greek Kingdom. This resulted in an influx of Greek colonists and the export of Greek culture and language to these new realms, a breadth spanning as far as modern-day India. So, all right, so going down here a little bit, the Hellenistic culture thus represents a fusion of the ancient Greek world with that of the Western Asian, Northeastern African, and Southwestern Asian worlds, the consequence of the, let's see. All right. Before I get back to the Hellenistic period, okay, we're going to read a little bit about the Maccabean revolt. And this is with Mattathias and his sons, and one of his sons being Judas Maccabeus, who led the Maccabean revolt, against, let's see, I'm just going to read a little bit, and it says, the Maccabean revolt was rebellion led by the Maccabees against the Seleucid Empire and against Hellenistic influence on Jew life, on our culture, basically. Let me bring this up so you can see. So, the main phase of the revolt lasted from 167 to 160 BCE. It ended with the Seleucids in control of Judea. But conflict between the Maccabees, Hellenized Jews, and the Seleucids continued until 134 BCE. With the Maccabees eventually attaining independence, the revolt had a great impact on the Jew nationalism as an example of a successful campaign to establish political independence and resist governmental anti-Jew suppression. The Seleucid king Antiochus IV Epiphanes launched a massive campaign of repression against the Jew religion in 168 BCE. The reason he did so is not entirely clear, but it seems to have been related to the king mistaking an internal conflict among the Jew priesthood and as a full-scale rebellion. The Jew practices were banned. Jerusalem was placed under direct Seleucid control, and the Second Temple in Jerusalem was vandalized. In fact, excuse me. Let's get back to the book of First Maccabees. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse, I left off at verse 11, I'm going to read it again. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So a Hellenistic Jew is an Israelite that has taken on the Greek customs and ways of life. Verse 12, so this device pleased them well. Verse 13, then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen, Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. So, excuse me, our people, profaned the holy temple by building, with idolatry, by taking on those customs and courtesies of the heathen, particularly in this point, the Greeks. Verse 15, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. Verse 16, now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion of 2 realms. 17, wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen, and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him, and fled, and many were wounded to death. 19, thus they got strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar, and the candlestick of light, and all the vessels thereof, and the table of showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crowns, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. So he ransacked the temple. He took all our stuff. Verse 23, he took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre, and spoken very proudly. Therefore there was a great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were. Verse 26, so that the princes and elders mourned, the virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. So, after what, that's, that there again just goes to show you Esau, Edom, his spirit and his people, which is to do, rape, rob, murder, deceive, Verse 27, every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. Okay? So even the young women that were to be married, man, they were having it bad, man. They were a massacre, a state of mourning, grief, which is soon to come here to America, aka Babylon. Verse 28, the land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. Okay, confusion, just in a state of dire straits, stress, fear, bewilderment. Verse 29, after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came into Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them, but was all deceit. His words were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart, right? That's another ploy of Esau, Edom, the art of smooth words. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire, and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive, and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great strong wall, with a great and strong wall, and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. 35. They stored it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there. And so they became a sore snare, for it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. Verse 38. Insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her. And her own children left her. Yeah. When those devils took over, man, we got the hell out of there. Okay? We didn't want to have nothing to do with that, and plus we were so afraid, man, because, you didn't want to partake in those abominable ways, and we were, fear of getting slaughtered. Verse 39, her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. This is talking about Jerusalem. Okay? So, just like how it is in the land right now, being occupied by those small hats, those black hats. Okay? Just being profaned on a daily basis. That's why Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua is pissed off. Because these devils, they have no respect for the Lord's holy city, which he put his name on. Verse 41, verse 40. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. For verse 41, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. 42, and everyone should leave his laws, and so all the heathen agreed, according to the commandment of the king. Verse 43, yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath. Okay? So, as I said, where does it say? Back in verse 41, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. Okay? Doesn't matter what nation you're from, all should be one people, okay? Under one religion. Doesn't it kind of sound similar to what Esau Edom plans to do in this modern day and time? The NWO. Verse 44. Excuse me. 44. For the king had sent letters by... let me go to verse 42. And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. So all the heathen, they left the ways of their customs and their people and joined with Antiochus and his commandment and his religion. Verse 43. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbaths. Okay? For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. 45. And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offers in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people. So they just literally turned the sanctuary, the holy city, into a habitation of devils, a place of abomination. That's why, going down to verse 47, it says, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. 49, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. 50. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. You know, let me get Revelation real quick. Revelation 13, verse 15. And it said, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So, just like how back in ancient Greece with Antiochus in rulership, if you do not submit unto him and follow his ways, as it said, you would die. And in this modern day, if you do not bend the knee or take that you know what, the MOTB, more than likely you were going to be put to death or just be outcasted from society. One of the two. And so, verse 51, in the self-same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. 52, then many of the people were gathered unto him, to wit, everyone that forsook the law. And so they committed evils in the land and drove the Israelites into secret places, even even wheresoever they could fly for succor. So, Antiochus, he had, Israel back then just doing all sorts of abominable things. And, there were wicked men in Israel that consented to doing these things. So, and I'm going to keep reading. It says here in verse 54, now the 15th day of the month of Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and builded idol altars throughout the city of Judah on every side, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire. So, trying to do away with the Most High's, trying to do away with this book. The Most High's word. 57, and wheresoever was found with any the book of the testament, or if any consented to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death. So, let's get the book of 2nd Esdras. All right, 2nd Esdras chapter 16, verse 70. And it says, for there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. 71, they shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. 72, for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Verse 73, then shall they be known whom are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire. 74, hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. So, just like back then, man, those that defied that abominable king were to be put to death, just like how in the upcoming times, in this modern day, some of us are going to be martyrs. Some of us are going to be beheaded for this truth. Some of us are going to have to go through that. Some of us are also going to be outcasted from society because we choose to follow Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai and not the ways of an abominable king. Okay. Now, it says here, verse 58, 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 58. Thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month to as many as were found in the cities. Verse 59. Now the 25th day of the month they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of the Most High. 60. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. 61. They hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. So, being killed for keeping the law. Verse 62. Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Verse 63. Wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died. 64. And there was very great wrath upon Israel. Okay? So again, man, those that fear the Lord and follow the Lord wholeheartedly, just like back then, we're going to put through very similar things in this time. Being casted out, having our houses, our possessions ransacked, being roughed up by the authorities, being taken off to these camps, detention centers, to be, who knows, tortured and who knows what else, starved out, beaten, ultimately beheaded. Now going into Maccabees chapter 2. This is with Mattathias, when he lamented the case of Jerusalem. Okay? He was in a sore state of mind because look at the state of Jerusalem at that time. This is 2 Maccabees chapter 1, chapter 2, verse 1. In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Joreb, from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. And Modin is a city in Jerusalem. And he had 5 sons: Johanan, called Caddis; Simon, called Thasi; Judas, who was called Maccabeus; verse 5, Eleazar, called Avaron; and Jonathan, whose surname was Apphus. Verse 6, and when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, Woe is me! Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people, and of the holy city, and to dwell there when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers. Her temple has become as a man without glory. Talking about Jerusalem. Yeah, man, it was, like I said, it became a habitation of devils. Verse 9, her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets, her young men with the swords of the enemy. Verse 10, what nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? So yeah, everyone came to rob the holy city. Take all the riches, take all the goods. That's why when you see all these things that all these other nations have, like, the gold, the silver, all the rich and good stuff, that actually belongs to us. Everything, every precious jewel, every precious thing, every beautiful and nice thing that they have, it belongs to us. Verse 11, all her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman she is become a bondslave. And behold, our sanctuary is, even our beauty, and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. 13, to what end therefore shall we live any longer? Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore. So, just in a state of severe depression and mourning, just because they lost their home to a group of beasts. Verse 15. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came to the city Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise: Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with his sons and brethren. Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thine house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. 19. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice: Though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. Most High forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. Verse 22. We will not hearken to the king's words, to go from our religion either on the right hand or the left. Now when he had the left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. Which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment, wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. So, seeing one of his people, seeing another Israelite do something abominable, he couldn't contain his anger. He basically said, no, fuck that. 25. Also the king's commissioner, who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. Verse 26. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of the Most High, like as Phinehas did unto Zambri the son of Salam. 27. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, Whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So he and his sons fled into the mountains, and left all that ever they had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there. Verse 30. Both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them. Now when it was told the king's servants and the house that was at Jerusalem and in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandments were gone down to the secret place in the wilderness, they pursued after them. A great number having overtaken them, they camped against them, and made war against them on the Sabbath day. And they said unto them, Let that which you have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and you shall live. But they said, We will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment, to profane the Sabbath day. So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit, they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid, but said, Let us die all in our innocency. Heaven and earth shall testify for us that you put us to death wrongfully. So that verse 38, so they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them with their wives and children and their cattle to the number of 1,000 people. Now, verse 39, now when Mattathias and his friends withstood hereof, they mourned for them right sore. And one of them said to another, If we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. 41. At the time wherefore they decreed, saying, Whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we shall fight against him, neither will we die all as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places. Okay? So, we are to stand boldly for Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Stand up for his laws, statutes, and commandments, judgments, and ordinances. Okay? Just like in this modern day, the elect are not going to be deceived. They are not going to bend the knee to this beast system. We would rather die, take our death manfully, if we are to be martyrs. Okay? Not to give in to this system. Right? So, where was I? Oh yeah, okay. Verse 42. First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 42. Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. 43. Also, all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a stay unto them. So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger, and wicked men in their wrath, but the rest fled to the heathen for succor. Then Mattathias and his friends were round about, and pulled down the altars. 46. And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. Verse 47. They pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hand. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles, and out of the hand of kings, neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. Okay. Verse 9. Now when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, Now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction, and the wrath of indignation. Verse 50. Now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. 51. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time, so shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name. Right? So, again, go back to Revelation real quick. Revelation chapter 3. Yep. I'm reading Revelation chapter 3, starting at verse 10. And it says, Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Verse 11. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Verse 12. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my power, and he shall go no more out, and I will write a name upon him in the name of my power, and the name of the city of my power, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my power, and I will write upon him my new name. Okay, so when all hell breaks loose, man, and everything is just chaotic, and Edom brings in that martial law, that's going to be the time when we're being throughout the board, across the board, our faith is going to be tested regardless. So if you're not rooted in this thing by then, you're just going to be lost and ultimately destroyed. You really have to believe in this thing and have faith that the Most High is going to get you through this. Yes, some of us are going to have to go through some things, but the 1/3, the elect, they're going to go through hell. But compared to the hell that the 2/3 are going to go through, the 2/3, they are through. The hell that they're about to go through is going to be oof. Okay, so going back to Maccabees chapter 2. I'm going to start at First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 51. I left off on verse 51. So 51 again. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time, so shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name. Verse 52. Was not Abraham found faithful in Let me start over. 52. Was not Abraham found faithful in in temptation, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness. 53. Joseph, in the time of his distress, kept the commandment and was made Lord of Egypt. 54. Phinehas, our father, in being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. 55. Yahushua, for fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel. 56. Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land. 57. David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. 58. Elias, which is Elijah, excuse me, Elias, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven. Elijah. Okay, so in verse 59, Ananias, Azarias, and Misael, by believing, were saved out of the flame, which was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay, 60. Daniel, for his innocency, was delivered from the mouth of the lions. 61. And thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. 62. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms. Okay, and I know I read a lot, but I'm just getting straight to the point, man, of what this is really all about, man. In times of captivity, the elect have always been there. Going to 2 Maccabees, chapter 2. Let me see something. What was it? Second. Second Maccabees, was it? And going to the Maccabean revolt, and like I said, this was the time when the Maccabees eventually, they rose up against the Seleucid Empire. Okay, and read it right here. It says Seleucid King Antiochus IV Epiphanes. And it says, was a king of the Seleucid Empire from 175 BC until his death in 164 BC. Notable events during Antiochus' reign include his near conquest of Ptolemaic Egypt, his persecution of the Jews of Judea and Samaria, and the rebellion of the Jews. Okay. He launched a massive campaign of repression against the Jew religion in 168 BCE. The reason, as it says, the reason he did so is not entirely clear, but we all know what it is. But it seems to have been related to the king. Yeah, I'm just going to skip that part. The Jews' practices were banned. Jerusalem was placed under direct Seleucid control. And the second temple in Jerusalem was vandalized. Yeah, it was vandalized because those heathen got in there. They took all our stuff, turned it into a habitation of devils and wicked beasts. And the repression triggered the revolt that Antiochus IV had feared, with a group of Jew fighters led by Judas Maccabeus, who was the son of Mattathias, and his family rebelling in 167 BCE and seeking independence. The rebels as a whole would come to be known as the Maccabees, and their actions would be chronicled later in the books of 1st Maccabees and 2nd Maccabees. So the rebellion started as a guerrilla movement in the Judean countryside, raiding towns and terrorizing Greek officials far from direct Seleucid control. But it eventually developed a proper army capable of attacking the fortified Seleucid cities. And who was at the head of it? It was Mattathias. The Maccabees captured Jerusalem, and a significant early victory, a subsequent cleansing of the temple, and rededication of the altar, which was one of our high holy days, the festival of Hanukkah. Okay? Right, let's read a little bit about it. Hanukkah was the festival commemorating the recovery of Jerusalem and subsequent rededication of the Second Temple at the beginning of the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucid Empire in the 2nd century BCE. It is observed for 8 nights and days, starting on the 25th on the 25th day of Kislev, which is the 3rd month of the, as it says, the 3rd month of the civil year and the 9th month of the ecclesiastical year on the Hebrew calendar. In the Babylonian calendar, its name was Kislev. According to the Hebrew calendar, which may occur anytime from November 28th to December 27th. In the Gregorian calendar, the festival is observed by lighting the candles of the candelabrum of 9 branches. But there's there's supposed to be 7, but this whole thing here, Esau, you all know how Esau gets down with the bullshit. Because the menorah is supposed to have 7, the menorah is supposed to have 7, not 9. 7 branches. But yes, this is one of our holy days. Just going back. So the Seleucids right here. The Seleucids eventually relented and unbanned Judaism, but the more radical Maccabees, not content with merely reestablishing the practices under Seleucid rule, continued to fight, pushing for a more direct break with the Seleucids. Judas Maccabeus died in 160 BCE at the Battle of Elasa against the Greek general Bacchides. And the Seleucids reestablished direct control for a time, but remnants of the Maccabees under Judas's brother Jonathan Appius continued to resist from the countryside. Eventually, internal division among the Seleucids and problems elsewhere in their empire would give the Maccabees their chance for a proper independence. Okay. In 141 BCE, Simon Thassi succeeded in expelling the Greeks from their citadel in Jerusalem. An alliance with the Roman Republic helped guarantee their independence. Simon would go on to establish an independent Hasmonean kingdom. Okay. The Hasmonean dynasty was a ruling dynasty of Judea and surrounded the regions during the Hellenistic times of the Second Temple period. Okay. So, 2 Maccabees chapter 2. Second Maccabees chapter 2. No, wait. No, Salakia, no. Salakia. First, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to First Maccabees. Salakia. But yeah, this is, oh wait. Hold on. Yep, here we go. 2 Maccabees chapter 8, Salakia. 2 Maccabees chapter 8, verse 1. It says, Then Judas Maccabeus and they that were with him went privily into the towns and called their kinsfolk together and took unto them all such as continued in the Jews' religion, and assembled about 6,000 men. And they called upon the Lord that he would look upon the people that was trodden down of all, and also pity the temple profaned of ungodly men, and that he would have compassed upon the city sword to face and ready to be made even with the ground. Just basically meaning to be just completely desolate and a waste. And hear the blood that cried unto him. In verse 4, and remember the wicked slaughter of harmless infants, and the blasphemies committed against his name, and that he would show his hatred against the wicked. Excuse me. Verse 5, now when Maccabeus had his company about him, he could not be withstood, by the heathen, for the wrath of the Lord was turned into mercy. 6. Therefore he came at unawares and burnt up towns and cities, and got into his hands the most commodious places, and overcame and put to flight no small number of his enemies. But specially took he advantage of the night for such privy attempts, insomuch that the bruit of his manliness was spread everywhere. So Judas Maccabeus and his forces, they were not sparing none. They were just going at it. That righteous indignation, showing these heathens no mercy. Verse 8. So when Philip saw that this man increased by little and little, and that things prospered with him still more and more, he wrote unto Ptolemais, the governor of Syria and Phoenice, to yield more aid to the king's affairs. 9. Then forthwith choosing Nicanor, the son of Patroclus, one of his special friends, he sent him with no fewer than 20,000 of all nations under him, to root out the whole generation of the Jews. And with them he joined also Georgius, a captain who in matters of war had great experience. Verse 10. So Nicanor undertook to make so much money of the captive Jews as should defray the tribute of 2,000 talents, which the king was to pay to the Romans. But like I said, man, let's see, verse 4. Verse 11. Wherefore immediately he sent to the cities upon the sea coast, proclaiming a sale of the captive Jews, and promising that they should have 80 bodies for 1 talent, not expecting the vengeance that was to follow upon him from the Almighty power. Verse 12. Now when word was brought unto Judas of Nicanor's coming, and he had imparted unto those that were with him that the army was at hand, they that were fearful and distrusted the justice of the Most High fled and conveyed themselves away. Others sold all that they had left, and withal besought the Lord to deliver them, being sold by the wicked Nicanor, before they met together. 15. And if not for their own sakes, yet for the covenants he had made with their fathers, and for his holy and glorious name's sake, by which they were called. So Maccabeus called his men together unto the number of 6,000, and exhorted them not to be stricken with terror of the enemy, nor to fear the great multitude of the heathen who came wrongfully against them, but to fight manfully. Okay? So just like Maccabeus here, do not fear the multitude of the heathen. Stand boldly against them manfully. Stand in great boldness. Fuck these people. Really. Fuck them. Remember who your power is. Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. That's your power. He's the one that's going to stand up for you, so stand up for him. All right? And I know that this lesson was been a little long, but I just wanted to I just went a little way into it, but in verse 17, and to set before their eyes the injury that they had unjustly done to the holy place, and the cruel handling of the city, whereof they made a mockery, and also taking away of the government of their forefathers. Verse 18, for they, said he, trust in their weapons and boldness, but our confidence is in the Almighty power, who at a beck can cast down both them that come against us, and also all the world. Verse 19, moreover, he recounted unto them what helps their forefathers had found, and how they were delivered when under Sennacherib, and 180,500 perished. Verse 20, and he told them of the battle that they had in Babylon with the Galatians, how they came but 8,000 in all to the business, with 4,000 Macedonians, and that the Macedonians, being perplexed, the 8,000 destroyed, the 8,000 destroyed and 120,000 because of the help that they had from heaven, and so received a great booty, a spoil. But yeah, man, you know, if the Lord be with us, who can be against us, man? The name of the Lord is a strong tower; the righteous runneth into it and are safe. So Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is our power and our safety. He is our shield. He is our buckler. Okay, He's the one that gives us the power to defend. As the scriptures say, Isaiah 59, the Lord shall lift up a standard. And that standard is coming. It's close. So it's only a matter of time before, the Lord, raises up his elect men. And it's only a matter of time. We're almost there. So be ready. Verse 21. Thus when he made them bold with these words and ready to die for the laws and the country, he divided his army into 4 parts, and joined with himself his own brethren, leaders of each band, to wit, Simon and Joseph and Jonathan, giving each one 1,500 men. Okay. 23. He appointed Eleazar to read the holy book, and when he had given them this watchword, the help of the Most High, himself leading the first band, he joined battle with Nicanor. Verse 24. And by the help of the Almighty, they slew above 9,000 of their enemies, and wounded and maimed the most part of Nicanor's host, and so put all to flight. Okay. Don't the scriptures say that one should put 100 to flight and 100 should put 1,000 or one should put 1,000 or 10,000 to flight, roughly paraphrasing if I'm mistaken? So, Lord willing, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai willing that we are those men and we get that power, that standard, these people are going to turn tail and run. So, when Maccabeus succeeded in defeating this Nicanor's army, the Maccabean revolt, just defeating most of the, excuse me, defeating the Seleucid control. We brought back, the Second Temple the way it was, and we had that 8-day feast, the Hanukkah. Okay. So, excuse me. Lord willing that this was an edifying lesson. Like I said, this is the festival of Hanukkah. So, again, you can read about this, more of this. I'll probably get more into this as well. Lord willing, I do a breakdown on the books of the first Maccabees and second Maccabees, Lord willing, if that be the case, but yeah, this is history right here, These are things that you should know. And with closing, like I said, I hope that this lesson was edifying to the body and to the few sincere believers and listeners. And with that, I'd like to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadash. Double honors and respect to the elders and to the apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to all Akim that are preaching and teaching this word with 100% truth and sincerity. And unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning. And unto the Ba'ath Adabodah, the elect house of David that is scattered abroad. I give you my utmost and sincere salutations. See you in the next lesson, Lord willing. Kwam Yasharala, Wa Abad Babal, Shalom, Barakatam.